Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel UPZ Pointers. Here we are going to study about Vedic period. Harappan culture was followed by another great civilization and culture known as Vedic culture. It is called Vedic age as its reconstruction is primarily based on using Vedic text as sources. Rig Veda composers describe themselves as Arya or Aryan. There is still no consensus on the original home of Aryans, and different theories are postulated which further continue the debate. First, let me see about early Vedic or Rig Vedic period. This period has 1500 BC to 1000 BC. Let's see about the basics. So, its main sources was derived from Rig Veda, which has 10 mandalas and 1028 hymns. Mandalas are chapters from 2 to 8 are called Saptarishi Mandalas, as these are composed by the 7 great sages. Mandalas 2 to 7 form the earliest portions, while 1 and 10 were latest editions. 10th Mandala. This is called Purusha Shukta, that describes cosmic creation, that is Adi Purush, along with fourfold Varna system. Then what did 3rd Mandala says? It contains Gayatri Mahamantra, which was addressed to goddess Savitri, and it is more importantly composed by Vishwamitra. Next, geographical expansion during the early Vedic period. So the early Vedic people or Aryans settled in the land of 7 rivers called Sapta Sindhu. Which are these rivers? First one is Sindhu, Vitasta, Aksani, Parushni, Vipasa, Satudri, Saraswati. First, Sindhu is otherwise known as Indus, Vitasta Jhelum, Aksini Chenab, Parushni Ravi, Vipasa Beas, Sadutri Satluj, and Saraswati Gagar. The region covered present-day parts of Afghanistan, Punjab, and Haryana. Sindhu is the most mentioned, and Saraswati is the most regarded holy water. So Saraswati Valley was also called as Brahmavarta. The Himalaya or the Himamanta mountains are well known to the Rig Vedic sages, but not the Vindhyas or Satpuras. The Nadisikta hymn of the Rig Veda mentions 21 rivers, which include the Ganga in the east and the Kuba, that is Kabul, in the west. It also mentions ocean, that is Samudra, in connection with rivers like Sindhu and Saraswati, falling into the ocean. The ocean is also mentioned in the context of foreign trade. So what does the society looks like during that period? So populations called Janas along with several non-Aryas Janas. Society was divided into Aryans and non-Aryans, that is Dasas and Dasus. Aryans were soft towards Dasas, but they were more hostile towards Dasus. It was an egalitarian society. Social differentials were not sharp. Slaves were used for domestic purposes and not for agriculture purposes. And the fourfold Varna was older and rigid caste system. It was not yet completely developed. The term Varna used in Rigveda with reference to only Aryans and Dasa having respectively fair and dark complexion. Rigvedic society was patrilineal and birth of a son was preferred, though the women had important positions in the society since they were educated and had access to the assembly. They composed hymns and received upadhyana. Women attended the meetings of Vidyata also. Girls were even free to choose their life partners. Gosha, Shikta, Nivavari and Apala were female sages of the time and contributed to the composition of Rigveda. It is more important to note that child marriage and sati were absent at the time, and a special widow remarriage called Niyoga, that is levirate, was prevalent at the time. So during the time, gambling and chariot race were also famous at the time. 2 drinks called Soma and Sura were also famous. So what is called Soma and what is Sura? Soma was sanctioned by religion and was drunk at sacrifices, while Sura was disapproved by priests. A wealthy person was known as Gomat and the daughter called Duhitri, which means one who milks the cow. Let's come to the political system at the time. Janas were headed by Rajana, who was assisted by Prohit, Gramani and Senani, and popular bodies like Sabha, Samiti, Vidata, Gana, Sarada. So let's see about what is Sabha, Samiti, Vidata and Gana. Sabha. It is a smaller body meant for elites, that is exclusive body. Samiti. Broad-based for assembly presided over by the Rajan. Vidata. Tribal assembly with diverse function. Gana. Assembly or troop. These janas were further divided into Vis, and Vis in turn was divided into many Kul or Kutum. Kul has Grita as its unit and Kulapa as its head, while Vrigiha was headed by Grihapati or Dampati. Gaon was the place where cattle were kept, and Gavishti was quest or war for cows. Group of Kulas, Gram, and Gram was headed by Brahmani. Vajrapati, he was the authority over the large land, was leader of Kulupa and Graminis. Rajana ruled over his people, that is Jana at the time, and not over any specified area of land, and hence was called a protector, that is Gopa Jnanasya or Gopati Jnanasya. There were few non-monarchical states whose head was Ganapati or Jeshta. Raja had no standing army and bureaucracy was too absent at the time. Military functions were performed by tribal groups called Brat, Gana, Grama, Sarada. You all know about the Battle of Ten Kings. So this battle was fought on the banks of Ravi River for the protection of wealth, that is cow and cattle, and was won by Rajana Sudas of Bharata Jana, that is Bharata tribe. Let's see about the economy. Rigvedic society was pastoral at the time and the agriculture was secondary occupation for them. Cattle was main form of their wealth. Agriculture production was for consumption only and not for distribution sense or not for commercial sense. Yava was a common name for any grain. Barley was voluntary gift from the producers to the Rajana, and there was no tax at the time. Okay, so that the treasury was also not maintained. Currency or coins are not reported. A gold piece called Niksha find mention but has more ornamental value than currency. So here we should not misinterpret the word Niksha as a gold piece. It is a gold piece of course, but it is not used as a currency at the time. It was merely has an ornamental value. Barter system was prevalent and cows were the most favored medium of exchange. Copper tools of this era are reported from Punjab and Haryana. Ayas is the common name used for any metal. Gold was called Hiranya. Iron was not known to them, and the pottery type they were used at the time was ochre colored pottery and the painted brayware. Aryan introduced spoked wheels. Horse played significant role in their life. They didn't live in cities. This is most common characteristics of the Vedic period. So economic activities like hunting, carpentry, tanning, weaving, chariot making, metal smeltery, etc. So religious aspect. In the religious aspect, Rigvedic hymns, that is Supti or praises for gods and goddesses, and the deity is colored pottery and the painted brayware. Aryan introduced spoked wheels. Horse played significant role in their life. They didn't live in cities. This is most common characteristics of the Vedic period. So economic activities like hunting, carpentry, tanning, weaving, chariot making, metal smeltery, etc. So religious aspect. In the religious aspect, Rigvedic hymns, that is Supti or praises for gods and goddesses, and the deity is anthropomorphic. Anthropomorphic, that is in human form. Yet, idol worship was not practiced. Simple, short, and less ritualistic worship and sacrifices were practiced. Households performed the rituals themselves, and any expert priest was not required for that. Chanting of mantras was an important part of the ritual. Magic and omen were not prevalent. Why it is not prevalent? Because the priests were given less importance at the time. The gods were categorized into three spheres, namely terrestrial, atmospheric or mid-sphere, and cosmic or celestial sphere. Important gods of Rigvedic time were Indra, Varuna, Agni, Yama, and Soma. Vishnu was minor god during Rigvedic period. Maharishi Vasistha and Vishwamitra were important priests. Now, the early Vedic era was over. Now coming to later Vedic era. So let's go for the basics. The sources of information was taken from Samaveda, Yajurveda and Atharva Veda. Other sources are Brahmanas, Aryan castes. So what is Brahmanas? It is a detailed commentaries or explanation on the Vedas. while the Aranyakas, called forest books, it explains metaphysics and symbolism of sacrifice, and Upanishads or books on philosophy or deeper knowledge about Atma, Brahma, etc. They were anti-ritualistic. So geographical expansion at the time, Aryans became generally familiar with a major portion of the Gangetic Valley where they gradually settled. Western Ganga Valley was called Aryavarta. Arabian Sea and the Indian Ocean, several Himalayan peaks and Vindhya mountains are mentioned during the time of later Vedic period. And here we have to note that it was indirectly mentioned. So next we can see about society. It is visible that fourfold Varna system was more prevalent and appearance of several jatis or castes made the social system complex. Untouchability appeared, women's position degraded as they were no longer got formal education. Gotra was the place where cattle resided together with Janas and later developed into an identity for the Janas. Nishad, Chandala and Shabar were the untouchables mentioned. Guests were called Gogna, that is Kaukila. Niyoga too was considered a negative activity. Male members of upper three Varnas called Dvija or twice born. Only these were entitled to Upanayan, that is wearing the sacred thread. Women like Gargi, Gotra, and practice of Gotra exonomy and Maitri accomplished in the knowledge arena. Gargi outwitted Yajnavalkya in a philosophical discourse. Sati and child marriage were still largely absent. Fourfold ashram, that is stages for four Purushasattash, that were goals. They were Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyasa. So Brahmacharya, what is that? It is a celibate student for knowledge, that is Dharma. Grihastha, it means the householder for wealth and progeny, that is Artha and Kama. Vanaprastha, it is a hermit in retreat for spiritual freedom. Wisdom. Sannyasa, it means renunciation for liberation, that is Mukti or Moksha. Next, we are going to political system at the time. Janas were evolved to become Janapatas. Hastinapur and Indraprastha were capitals of Guru, that is Janapata. Frequent battles among these Janapatas were fought for territory. Authority of the Rajana became more evident and a support staff called Ratnan. They were 12 jewels of the king, worked for Rajana. Chiefship became hereditary. Still, there was no standing army at the time. Rajana started various sacrifices like Rajasya, Ashwamedha, Vajpaya, like that. Rajasuya means it was a sacrifice given during coronation, and Ashwamedha means to become ruler of all direction, that is Chakravarti, and Vajpaya, it is a sacrifice given for revitalization to the aging of Rajana. Dependence on Sabha and Samiti reduced. Women were not allowed to attend these assemblies. Vidanta completely disappeared. Term Rajshtra, indicating territory, first appeared in this territory. Rajana assumed titles like Samrat, Ekrat, Sarvabhumi, Virat. Economy. Iron, that is Krishna or Shyama Ayas, was discovered and use of fire for clearing forests for cultivation increased. Agriculture of multiple crops put limitation on nomadic culture, cattle rearing continued. Wheat, barley, rice, beans, mung, urad and sesame was cultivated. Surplus produce led to barley and baha, that is 1/6 or 1/12, that is customary contributions, minor taxes to the king's treasury. Treasurer was called Samgrahiti and Bhagduta collected the taxes and Vaishya were only taxpayers. Shataman Krishnala are believed to be coins used but has no archaeological backing. There is reference to money lending, that is Shatapatha Brahmana describes a usurer as Kuzidin. Various arts and crafts like smelting, smithery or carpentry, weaving, leatherworking, jewel making, dyeing and pottery making, glass hoards and bangles also find mention. Commerce and trade are indicated by mention of sea voyages. And what was a pottery type that was used during later Vedic period is that painted graveware. Religious aspect. Varun and Indra, the most important gods of pre-Vedic age, lost prominence in later Vedic phase. Prajapati or Adi Purush became the chief god in later Vedic period. Some of the other minor gods became prominent such as Vishnu and Rudra. So Vishnu we know conceived as a preserver and protector of the people, and Rudra was merely the god of the animals. Some of the social orders too adopted there own deities. For example, Pushan, who was supposed to look after cattle, came to be regarded as a god of Shuddhas. Rituals, sacrifices, and requirement of supervising priest, Purohita, made religious life complex. Few instances of idol worship are reported. Magic and omen entered the socio-religious life. However, towards the end of later Vedic age, a strong reaction began to emerge against priestly domination, against cults and sacrifices, especially in the land of Panchala and Vidaha, where around 600 BC the Upanishads were compiled. Next, we are going to look on important terms during the Vedic period. Go through a glance. Okay, let me read it out for you. The terms, and here is meaning or functions. 𝘃𝙉𝙀𝙉 and Ugra. These were police officials probably meant for dealing with the criminals. 𝘃𝙉𝙀𝙉 and Ugra, police officials. 𝑠ْpasa, spy. Vidata, it is an assembly meant for secular, religious and military purpose. Sabha, assembly, perform judicial functions. Sabhavati, women who attended the assembly. There is a practice of women attending it was stopped in late Vedic period. Samiti, folk assembly, in which people of the tribe gathered for transacting tribal business. Madhyamasi, mediator in disputes. Bahaduga, tax collector or revenue collector. Sangrahitri, treasurer. Mahishi, chief queen. Sutta, charioteer. Palagala, messenger. Akshvapa, accountant. Kshata, keeper of king's household. Aryanekas, forest book. These are Vedic texts composed by hermits, that is Tapavasi. Govinkartana, keeper of games and forest. Adapati, chief judge. Takshan, carpenter. Next we go for Vedic text. Vedic texts are broadly categorized into two parts, namely Shruti and Smriti. Shrutis are the text that is heard or product of godly revelation to the great sages like rishis while in meditation. Okay. Next, the Shruti. The four Vedas and Samhitas are included in the Shrutis. Next, we go for Smritis. What is Smritis? Smritis, on the other hand, are those that are recollected by normal humans. The detailed commentaries or explanation on the Vedas like Brahmanas, Aryanukas and Upanishads. And there were 6 Vedangas and 4 Upadvevas make the Smritis. Next, Vedic deities. Take a look on it before I read it aloud for you. Okay, deity worshipped as additional feature. First we go for Indra. Indra is a god of lightning, most mentioned 250 times, known as Purandar or destroyer of forts, and he lost prominence in later Vedic period. Next, Vayu Bhagavan, Vayu, god of air. Agni, god of fire. He is concerned for purity and yajna. Surya, god of life, and he had Vishnu, Savitri, Gayatri, Mitra and Pushan as its attributes. Rudra, god of destruction, also worshipped for healing from diseases, merged with Shiva in the later Vedic phase. Aditi, mother of gods. Usha, goddess of dawn. Varun, god of water and morals, and Varun was most powerful, maintained cosmic order laws, and lost prominence in the later Vedic period. Vishnu, an aspect of Surya, and Vishnu was a god who was least mentioned in these Vedic text. Marut, god of wind. Prithvi, god of fertility. Arinini, goddess of forest. Parjanya, god of rain. Prajapati or Adi Purush, supreme god, and he was the most prominent during the later Vedic period. Pushan, god of Sudras, supposed to look after cattle. Next, coming to Vedas. Vedas we already know. There are 4 types of Vedas: Rig Veda, Sam Veda, Yajur Veda and Atharva Veda. So, I'm just going to take everything I have mentioned here. Okay. Rig Veda, associated Brahmana Upaveda. Here, no need to go in for detail. First, Rig Veda, it is associated with warfare and it is a Vola-serving text. Hymns are dedicated to several deities, mostly to Indra, and the themes were life, death, creation, sacrifice and Soma, that is godly pressure. Samveda. Samaveda is related to music and it is the earliest book on music, that is Sama means melody and Ragas and Raginis. and poetic texts derived from Rig Veda. Yajurveda, it concerns on architecture and it is related to sacrifices and rituals composed both in prose and poetry. And two related Samhitas were Shukla and Krishna. Atharva Veda, it is associated with Ayurveda, that is medicine, and here magic, omen, agriculture, industry or craft, cattle rearing, cure for diseases, and these were all mentioned in this Atharva Veda, and it is composed by non-Aryans. And the next, there are six theistic philosophies, that is Darshan. They were Samkhya, Yoga, Vaisheshika, Nyaya, Mimamsa, and Vedanta. First, we go for Samkhya. This means a theoretical foundation. It was given by Kapil. And Yoga, union of soul with God. It is given by Patanjali. And Vaisheshika, it discusses the atomic theory. It was given by Kanath. And Nyaya, it is the philosophy of logic. It is given by Gautam. And Mimamsa, it is called rituals by Jaimani. And Vedanta, it is the most important one by Badrayan. We have to note that Sankaracharya, Ramanujacharya and Swami Vivekananda promoted the Vedanta school. Next we can go for Adhistic philosophies. Buddhist school of Siddhanta Gautama, Jaina school of Mahavir Swami, and Chavak or Lokayat school was actually propounded by Brihaspati but was systemized by Charpak. Next, Vedangas. For proper understanding of Vedas, one needs to know Vedangas, which are supplement on the Vedas. There are six in number. First Vedangas is Siksha, and second is Nirukta, third is Chanda, fourth is Jyotish, and fifth is Vyakaran, and finally Kalpa. Shiksha means pronunciation of the words, that is education. Nirukta, origin of the words. Chanda, metrics used in Sanskrit verses. Jyotish, understanding of astronomy. Vyakaran, Sanskrit grammar. Kalpa, knowledge of rituals, that is Dharma Sutras. Next, Upanishads. The Upanishada indicates knowledge acquired by sitting close to the teacher. They are also known as Vedantas, having the truth about human life and path to moksha. It is a collection of over 200 Upanishads are known, but out of these 108 are called Muktikas. And Muhanda Upanishada contains a famous phrase, Satyameva Jayate. Next, Puranic literature. The Puranic literature is very vast and has 18 main Puranas, that is 18 subsidiary Puranas. And Puranas mention four ages, Krita, Treta, Dvapara and Kali. So Sarga, which means evolution of universe, Pratsarga, involution of universe, Manvantra, recurring nature of time, Vamsa, list of kings and sages, and Vamsanutra, selected character based stories, make the five fundamental pillars of Puranic text or Itihasa. Thus it happened. The 18 main Puranas are as follows. These are not important for preparation, so skip that. Next, finally, we go for epics. The two major epics are Ramayana and Mahabharata. Ramayana is written by Maharishi Valmiki, started with 6,000 verses around 5 BC and finally has 24,000 verses after many additions in different times. Mahabharata, it was written by Maharishi Vyasar and it was began with 8,800 verses somewhere between 70 BC to 480, and the final compilation has 1 lakh verses and became more popular as Mahabharata or Sata Sahitri Samhita. And that's it everyone. We have completed the Vedic period and the next class will be Sangam Age, that is the history of South India. Hello everyone.